Hi, I'm Simon, this is Sandeep. We're here to talk to you about data and more specifically how we can help you unlock the value of your data. Now, as a CX function, we're heavily focused on data and outcomes. It's underpinned by our 4D philosophy, dynamic data-driven decisions. Now you saw this diagram at the start, Alan went through it, so we won't go into detail in it, but what we'll say is that as a data function, we're heavily involved in every part of this, whereas like Adam, who you've listened to previously, focused very much in workforce optimization, will be involved in that in terms of the data to get him what he needs and also the data that outputs from that. But that is the same for every one of these levels. There will be an element of data analysis at the start, during and at the end while we're going through those process. So the CX approach is always to try and optimize the current estate before enhancing with tech. This is to give transformation success. So as I said, what we do is we use the data to actually plan and scope at the very start. Backed up by why digital transformations fail. There's a lot of numbers on there, but the two that we focus on are the unrealistic expectations, which is third up from the bottom. McKinsey worked out that 51% of transformations fail because of unrealistic expectations, and PwC said it was 60%. So what we know is that it's a high percentage based on that. So that is why that we focus on the data at the very start. We use the data to analyse and identify what the problem is and also how to fix it and what are the chances of success, so that we can always provide realistic expectations while going through that. We'll continually analyse data to make sure that we're on target. If that final outcome changes for whatever reason, we'll know straight away when that's not going to happen, not at the very end when it does happen. Now these are the types of problems that we solve for our clients. We've done these hundreds of times. We've got lots of experience, so I'll be surprised if there's a data problem that you've got that we've not seen before, but we do like to be surprised. So if you do have something, please come and talk to us. We always try to work with granular data, so we don't use averages, we don't use summarizations of data. We'll always get to that lowest level, and we've got some really good information examples of how we can get to that and how we use that later on. I worked out before this that between us we've got over 40 years of experience working with contact centres, handling the data. We've lived and worked across multiple sectors, multiple clients, and it's that experience that allows us to understand what data is and why it is, and also to be able to deliver some of these solutions at speed. So the start, I said that we're going to help you extract the value from your data. So first of all, what is data? We see data as a picture into past experiences. It can tell you what's happened before. So almost every system you use is generating data points, minutes at a time. And what we use use our experience to be able to extract that data and actually add meaning to it. And brings on to the next point of data itself just doesn't have value. It's a list of numbers, it's a list of letters, it's just a jumble of nonsense. What gives it value is giving it meaning and narrative and actually understanding what that data is. It's there. So to do that, we look at data through three different lenses, which are hindsight, insight and foresight. So hindsight is looking at what's happened in the past. Insight is looking at why that happened, and foresight is looking at what could happen next. We would like to point out we're also very experienced at working with bad data. So even if your data isn't in a good state, we'll have seen that before. We'll be able to work with it. We'll be able to help you extract the good data from the bad. I'll now pass over to colleague Sandeep, who'll talk you through where we've gone through this process.
Cheers, Si. So here's one of the problems one of our housing association clients came to us with. You've probably heard about this from Cloughie, so I'm not going to talk about the £1 million of avoided cost. going to tell you how a relatively small change had a massive influence on how efficient and productive they became, and it enabled some of the savings that Cluffy got to exploit. So they came to us wanting to buy a callback solution. We asked them a fairly simple question of why. They went on to explain high abandonment rates, long wait times, and they work under strict budget constraints. So that's all good. Went through our process, looked at all the available data, which wasn't in great shape, and then we spent a little bit of time with the operation and the operations leads. And by completing this step, fairly quickly realised that the callback tool is not going to be fit for purpose here, and it'd just fail. So we went back with a load of recommendations, and most of the focus wasn't related to tech. And one of the things that was identified is that the current reporting, the hindsight, just wasn't fit for purpose. So the support function here, we're pulling multiple reports from multiple systems, manually transposing huge amounts of data and information from one place to another. The problems with this is that it's incredibly labour intensive, so they were spending 4 or 5 hours of copying and pasting. So as anyone that has to copy and paste for 4 or 5 hours, it's a pretty shit job. So the accuracy of the MI as well just wasn't where it needed to be. For a business making decisions off the back of it, they needed to really do a bit of work. You don't want to be making decisions off things that are, incorrect. So the first task, fix the MI, give them greater visibility of productivity of their agents as well. So what we did, we automated the vast majority of it, increased the number of reports they were using to include agent level data. They already had a dedicated reporting suite, but I imagine when that was designed or built, it was built to spec, and the spec was not for a failing business, it was for a business that just needed X, Y, and Z in the reporting data. So once we had automated everything, validated everything, the benefits were business decisions made on accurate data, reporting arrives in the morning, not at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. One of the key things for us, getting the data out there first thing, you can actually action it, as opposed to it's lost all its value in the afternoon. And the support team now get it all refreshed in a couple of clicks, and they're actually empowered to manage the real-time queues. So they're actually adding value back into the business, making sure that queues are handled real-time and live, making sure agents are hitting their adherence. So again, approached by one of our .gov clients and asked for a particular service within there to complete a diagnostic. The ask was simple: tackle the backlog. I think it was circa 19,000 emails. They had a small backlog in admin, in back office, and reduce the telephony average speed of answer down to 15 minutes. Again, not allowed any extra people. So just to reiterate, get rid of the backlog in email. Can't just select all and delete. Got to actually work them, and then reduce the ASA from currently 45-50 minutes down to 15. Nice easy one. So for this one, we couldn't do the targeted WFO approach. We need to do a fair amount of work before we could get to that point. So first thing we had to do, build out a back office tracker, deploy the tracker, and start baselining what back office tasks were being completed and when. We needed to access their email data to understand what emails they had and how best to tackle this backlog. And we had to ensure whatever we did, we left something behind for the operation after we had completed our work, to make sure they didn't fall into this position again in the future. Now, again, these guys had a Power BI reporting suite, which was busy. And it was difficult to find what you wanted, literally just through every metric from every system on a report. And it didn't even include the productivity metrics we would want to track for a business. So simplify the dashboard, reduce the complexity to the user. We had to ensure that the volumes they used were the same as what we saw. So over the initial first period for the email, period of 3 or 4 weeks, we managed to clear the backlog, so they're now all in service. we changed the way they actually worked the admin tasks. So we realigned all the AHTs using the data we collected from the tracker. And this allowed us to move into the telephony piece of work. So we've got a great relationship with this client now, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying, because she'll be speaking later, but when we went in there and started to talk telephony, we said that to kill the spin or to stop the repeat contacts coming in, we need to plan at 20 seconds average speed of answer for the telephony service. And she just laughed at us. But if you look at their stats now, which are on the screen, I mean, I think they're at 46 seconds, 47 seconds, but they actually hit 20 seconds quite regularly within that as well. Another example, a different client, a retail client, came to us. They were embarking on a digital transformation, and they wanted to know which contact types that they could fully automate. So these guys sell white goods, washing machines, fridge freezers, tumble dryers, dishwashers, that sort of stuff, and they are, I think they're globally the biggest one. They've got contact centres dotted around all over the world, and to help them understand what could be automated, we first needed to understand their data. So fortunately for us, the quality of the data here was actually reasonably good. Not as good as they thought, but it was decent, and it allowed us to do a bit of cleaning, gave us a view of all of their contact centres in one place. And if you've ever tried to translate Romanian into English, it's pretty difficult. It took a while to get it right, and then the next step was to take this data and generate some insight for them on what could potentially be automated. So over the next couple of slides, we'll show you a bit of insight and a bit of foresight. So I'm not sure if you've seen one of these before, but it's a value irritant matrix. So what we do with this is we score every contact type against, is it a value or irritant to the customer, and the same again for the business. So depending on the scoring, you get put into one of these quadrants, one of these 4 categories. And for this client, we could automate 60% of their contact. However, for these guys, after we spent some time with the ops team and on the floor, we realised that one of these big circles at the bottom that we could automate was actually a revenue generating stream. So automating it, definitely not the right thing to do for them, but still they wanted to automate as much contact as possible. So back over to you, Si. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. So that's some really good examples of where we've used our hindsight and insight lenses on the data to understand what happened in the past and why it happened. What we're going to look at now is where we've used data to try and predict what's going to happen in the future. So foresight. Now, following on from the same example that Sandeep's just been talking about, we had this bucket of calls that we wanted to automate, but obviously after our discussion with the client, our understanding of what was going on, we realised that by doing that we'd be potentially automating a lot of revenue generating contacts and losing that revenue. So what we needed to do was to find out of those which ones would and which ones would not actually generate revenue, and if we could do that, then we knew which ones could and which ones could not be automated. So we actually built a propensity model, or predictive model, looking at all of the customer data as to whether they're a current policy holder, whether they're in or out of warranty, adding demographic data based on what we thought that person, and then what we actually did was build quite an accurate model that looked at every customer and was able to predict at any moment what their likeliness of buying an extended warranty was. We were then able to plug that into the ACD, so when a customer rang in, if they could be identified based on the number they rang in from, it would be able to put that customer through this model, actually identify for that moment in time whether they were likely to buy or not. If they were, then we routed them to an agent. If they weren't, then we routed them through an automated solution. That way we maximise benefits in terms of maintaining the level of revenues we'd seen before, which stayed at a pretty flat line throughout, before and after, but also reducing costs, which we managed to do by automating a lot of these contacts. I think the end result was really well received. It worked really well, and we got the result that we wanted. So next, I'd like you to introduce you to our new all-encompassing analytical product called Fauna Analytics. This is created in collaboration with Traction. I don't know if you know Traction, but it provides standardised data for easier and better analytics and workforce management. Now, we've got a little intro video that we'll just play for you, and then we'll look at some ways of what Traction does to data that makes it easier to work with, would have saved us a massive amount of time in some of those past projects, and how we work with them to be able to do this, be able to work with them going forward, to be able to make data easier to work with. We've also got someone from Traction here today who we've got some really good examples. Is actually in this group, so it's Matt. So if you are interested in any of this, come and see us afterwards. Matt will be here. We'll be able to answer all of your questions, but hopefully the video and our presentation will help.
Use 30 years
Can you hear
of
that?
contact center expertise
Perfect.
to develop a unique solution which makes a real difference, driving change to automatically enhance the customer-agent interaction during the moments that matter. Traction does this by understanding the complete customer journey as it is happening, not once the chance has gone, enabling a more dynamic and customer-centric contact center. Our cloud-enabled or on-premise Traction platform seamlessly connects into any contact center environment, showing you how the performance of your agents is directly affecting your business. Traction intelligently interprets and stitches together data from across multi-channel platforms to capture every aspect of the customer journey and agent activity, to deliver unparalleled insight, to automatically drive improved productivity. You can see those things that are impacting customer effort, see where and why operational costs are increasing. Traction is able to identify this by calculating a unique customer effort score, utilizing 100% of all customer contact, and repurposing this in a number of ways to assist the agent to improve performance. By calculating it in real time, the customer effort score allows analysis of how agent behavior is directly affecting customer satisfaction, NPS, and the overall contact center performance. It also enables the operation to focus on reducing customer effort to drive significant cost savings. This is achieved by using notifications to nudge and inform agents, providing meaningful customer insight and to capture critical information. It can spot, for example, when call handling times fall outside of parameters, reminding agents that longer call or hold times can result in lower customer satisfaction. Think of Traction as an automated personal assistant, helping and guiding agents to reduce customer effort, helping to free up the team leader to focus on more productive activities like personalized agent coaching and staying in touch no matter where they're located. Traction augments core data with information collected from the agent and any third-party system, workforce management, desktop, or real-time speech. It also provides the most comprehensive granular data set for both immediate reporting and historical analysis, uncovering previously hidden insight, placing intelligence at the fingertips of your team. Supported by our comprehensive success management service, Traction has been proven to drive immediate performance improvement in the most demanding of contact centers, significantly improving AHT, productivity, and driving down customer churn and agent attrition. Agents like using it because it puts them at the heart of the experience. Customers benefit from the best possible experience at least effort, receiving the service they expect and deserve, improving engagement and lifetime value. For operational management teams, the reality of each and every interaction can be visualized, complete with context, from the moment the customer makes contact to the moment their issue is resolved.
That's a lovely intro video, but what does it mean? What I'm going to do now is hand back over to Sandeep, who's going to go through what that means for Fauna Analytics.
Cheers, mate. So we all know the problems of poor data. We put 99 on the page, but you don't need 40 years of experience to have a list this long. If we spent half an hour, another hour together, we probably would have got to 200 plus. But that would have ruined my little nod to Jay-Z. So these are a few of the problems you face with poor data. Some of the areas those problems are. And from some of our recent experiences with clients, you then compound this with data or insight teams that are technically brilliant and can build beautiful dashboards, but with most contact centres, when it comes to the MI and reporting, they're building to spec instead of asking one crucial or critical question, which is, why do you need that report? What problem are you trying to fix? So what Fauna Analytics can offer you, actually before we talk about that, let me dive into a bit more detail about some of these problems. So understanding your handle time at interval level. This is what Adam over there always asks of me, and I probably spend far too much time trying to figure it out. But with most ACDs, they assign your AHT to the end interval of a call. In the example here, the ACD would tell you that the handle time in the 9:15 to 9:30 interval was 30 minutes. Calls 1 and 2 because they ended in that interval. With Traction and Fauna Analytics, we can actually tell you that the handle time in that interval was 40 minutes, and we can break it down call by call. Being able to peg your calls to the answered or intended destination. So this is another biggie. With the complexity in most contact centres, taking volumes from application level, getting them through to the skill set level, calls can get pushed all over, depending on who's got the right skills, who's available. So you kind of can figure out pretty quickly how bad the routing and the process is when you suffer from really high transfer rates. With analytics, we can create data at every stage of that call, and then we can report at both levels as well, the answered level and the intended level. So another big issue we see is outbound time. So we can actually, with this tool, we can link the outbound call to the inbound call. This is great for providing WFM with the total contact handle time. So they can use that when they're planning. It's far more accurate than an AHT by contact type, and then layering over that with a spread of the outbound time. So in the example here, the ACD would have reported a 300-second handle time for this contact. The rest would have been captured in not ready codes or not ready reason codes, probably something like not ready outbound, with little or no chance of actually connecting the second part of the call to the first. And we not only link it back, but we're also able to report on every segment of that call as well, so you don't lose any of your talk, wrap, hold. And it just improves the data that we supply to WFM. So these three examples, they might not look groundbreaking or earth-shattering, but speaking with Adam, the combined benefit of just these three in a contact centre operation, you're looking at a benefit of around 3 to 5%, just by getting better data, more accurate data, and getting the interval level data correct. One of the other benefits of this is having, because we create all the data ourselves, it allows you to dive deeper into the right areas, and the right contact types, and it completely changes where you might plan or prioritise which contact types to review. So good for reducing the amount of effort. So just to recap, some of the common problems we face with data straight out of the ACD. AHT associated with the ending interval rather than the interval it actually comes in. Calls pegged to the wrong skill. Answered, not intended. No link between the outbound and inbound call. And with Fauna Analytics, we change that. Calls get counted on the arrival interval, not when they're answered or ended. We can still report on that level of data if it's important to you guys and your business. AHT is always where it actually takes place. We can look at both destinations of where it was answered or intended, and because we can link our outbound, it allows us to provide you with a TCHT or total contact handle time. Planning team will look like rock stars. We can create data from many different sources as well, and the beauty about having standardised or normalised data is that when you've got a mess of systems providing your WFM, your analytics, your operations team, it no longer becomes a problem when you've got standardised data. You can swap out any of the systems on the left plug in a new one with no break-in reporting. I don't know how many of you have gone through a transformation program, but one of the things you normally see is when you change from, let's say, Avaya to Nice or Genesis to Avaya, there's a break-in report, and you normally end up with 1, 2, 3, maybe more months where you're dealing with flat reports out of the CCAS platform. With analytics and traction, no longer an issue, it's seamless. We integrate in and we start creating data, so there's no break in any of your reporting. So how does it look? Because we start creating our own data at the earliest point, straight out the ACD, it's standardised, so it does, regardless of platform, the data always follows the same consistent path. Everything's validated and accurate, so feeding this into any of the systems on the right or getting data from them when they talk to each other is always accurate, and you can rest assured the data is always bob on. The data is real time as well, so this one's important. So we can start affecting that customer experience in a positive way there and then. It doesn't matter if your telephony is Avaya again, chat is Genesis, and you've got Teams integration as well. If you swap to Avaya for Nice, nothing changes. Everything still works. So one thing we often see in contact centres and contact centre reporting is many different reports that you have to piece together to try and understand or glean some insights about the operation. In the example here, the agent is planned to work 2 hours on phone, 2 hours on email, and 2 hours on chat. We've got a meeting, breaks, and lunch. So we also have a breakdown of what they actually did on the day, what they spent on telephony, chat, email. So these guys, this agent was supposed to work 6 hours, and what they actually delivered was 35 minutes under this. So there's 35 minutes of wastage in their day. With analytics, we plot the schedule for each agent. We then overlay this telephony. We can overlay this with telephony data. We can put on the email data and the chat data. What you'll realise is because all the calls are pegged together, the inbound and the outbound, that 30 or 20 minute gap, I think it's a 20-minute gap on telephony, wasn't actually a gap at all. They were on outbound calls and they went 5 minutes over, and that had the impact, so they're actually productive in that time. And it just allows you to see any wastage along their journey for the day. One of the beauties of this as well is if you've got real-time speech, we can connect into that feed. If you've got CSAT, QA, we can bring all that data in and we can plot your agent's day for them and peg everything back to the call, email or chat, so you get a full view of everything that went on. So what do you get and what are the benefits? Out of the box, we integrate into your current platforms. Doesn't matter if it's cloud, on-prem, hybrid. We standardise, normalise all your data, plug it in, create everything, validate everything we capture. We can start bumping assist messages to your agents, so telling them, I don't know, you've been on this call for too long, you're going to get a poor CSAT. You get proper reports straight out of the back, so they're already pre-built, and we will be working on additional reports, so if there's a sector or service where we think that report would be valuable across the board, they will also be added. The ultimate aim of this is to improve to make it cheaper for you to serve your customers, whilst also making sure you don't lose any customers on the way as well. So once we've done that, it allows us, or it opens up the opportunity, the analytic opportunity, and this is key, this is where we really come into our own. It's uncovering the wastage, figuring out why or how or where you're losing time in your business. The benefit of these two, in the first bit, probably somewhere in the region of 5 to 10%. And then following that, we get to run some performance sprints. So we've uncovered the wastage and opportunities. We can now determine what the intervention required is. We can look at the design of that intervention, what we need to build, how we need to deliver to plan it. We can look at how to launch it, and then we can analyse and track all the benefits out of the back. Did it work? How effective was it? And when you start going through all of the interventions or all of the performance sprints we can run, you're looking at a benefit in the region of 10 to 20%. Isn't data wonderful?